everybody doing today? I walked in and I was like, where are all the people? And now I see where you all are. Well, I know that this is the end of the show, and I'm here to keep you. So hopefully this can be a really good end to your week here, and hopefully you guys had a good time and you learned a lot and bought a lot of products, and you know, you're ready for the next one next year. But thank you for having me here today. As she said, I'm fresh off of Phoenix race from this weekend. Did you guys watch NASCAR? Yeah. Ask that question, you never know what you're going to get. So, well, I was racing in Phoenix, obviously, and I actually got a new situation in NASCAR right now. I've just got myself a new crew chief. So, for those of you who don't know what a crew chief is the guy who, when I'm talking on the radio and explaining what the car is feeling like, he's the one who makes all the decisions about the car and what happens with it and what we're going to do. So it's a very important part of the team. The driver and the crew chief is a very special combination, and you know, it's not very common that you have a crew chief change midway through the season. And I think that, you know, it can be something that's a little bit scary. It can be something that you don't want to try and you don't want to do, and you're used to certain people around you. But you know, I've learned in my years that you never know how good things could be unless you're willing to try them. And so not being afraid of change allows you to better your situation. And definitely with my crew chief change to a guy, his name is Tony Gibson, for those of you who follow NASCAR. He's an old school redneck guy who likes hunting and fishing, and he wants to take me hunting and fishing. And I can say that I've been fishing once in my life, and no, twice. But the second time I didn't catch any fish, so I'm not really sure that's considered much fishing. And I've never been hunting before, and I see those poor deer out there, and I think, I just can't kill you. So anyway, I figured I'd be good at drinking beer. Maybe that might be about my good talent on hunting. So this is awfully cold when it's time for deer season. But he's been amazing, and not being afraid of that change is what's allowed me to put myself in a better situation moving forward. We've had already the best races of the season. We raced last weekend in Texas, and we raced this weekend in Phoenix. And both races were my best of the year, and so that definitely makes me really excited moving forward. And I think that one of maybe the most important elements of that new change is that everyone on the team, including Tony himself, wants to be on my car. They want it to be on the 10 car. And for those of you who might be familiar with Ryan Newman, it was basically Ryan Newman's whole team. And when they were given the opportunity to stay with the 39 car, Ryan's car, or go to my car, they said they wanted to come to my car. And I think that is incredibly important no matter what business you're in, whether it's racing or trucking, it doesn't matter. What's valuable is having a group that wants to be there, because they feel like then you'll have happy people, you have motivated people, you have good attitudes, and that's when I feel like the most amount of productivity happens and success. And so I think that that's a really big reason as to why this has been such a good change for me. And while we're not racing this weekend in the Sprint Cup Series anyway, at Homestead, Miami for the final race of the season, which I'm sure y'all are tuning into, right? I race on Saturday night in the Nationwide Series. It's my last Nationwide race of the year. But definitely after last weekend, everybody was excited and they wanted to build a car for Homestead, and they were very pumped up about it. I got a text message from Tony at about 6:30 this morning talking about how pumped up he was. So we'll have to wait until next year at the Daytona 500, where we'll start off our season at the end of February. But everyone's looking forward to it. And I'm sure that you're all probably thinking, how on God's green earth did you get to where you're at? No? Anyways, have that thought? Because sometimes I wonder, because I'm just a little old girl from Roscoe, Illinois, which is a suburb of Chicago, about an hour away. My dad was a glazer, and my mom stayed home and took care of my sister and I. I have a sister who's 2 years younger than me, and my dad worked a lot. He you know, there's definitely stories that I heard later in my life about how, you know, how much they struggled for money, and my dad would get $5 for lunch to eat, and he would just save it and not eat. And we, you know, I came from the bottom and worked my way up. And my parents have been great role models for me. But one of the things that happened as a result of my dad working so hard is that we didn't really know him. So my mom got to stay home and take care of us, but I didn't know my dad. So we needed a way to be able to spend time with him, to get to know him. So we were going to buy a pontoon boat. Does anybody listen to country? I don't need to hear pontoon anymore. Does anybody else feel that same way? God, that song comes on and it won't get out of my head. I'm just getting sidetracked here a second, but that song came on before the Bristol race. I was racing in the Sprint Cup race, which is 500 laps around Bristol, and Ryan Newman, oddly enough, was the one that played pontoon. We all got to pick our favorite song to play, and he picked pontoon, so I was listening to all the driver intro songs, and I had that song in my head for 440 laps until I got taken out. That was painful. But I'm glad for their success at the CMAs. Which, oddly enough, I had the chance to work with Miranda Lambert on her Fastest Girl in Town video, and was happy to see her and Blake have so much success there that night. But anyway, back to the point. So we were going to buy a pontoon boat, but this guy apparently didn't want to sell his pontoon boat because we didn't get a call back, and that was how we were going to spend time together on the weekends, was go motorboating. So that's in the song. If you ever heard it, you'll just look at me like I'm an idiot. But we were going to go pontooning, but instead we bought go-karts, and that's where it all started. My sister wanted to race go-karts. My dad grew up racing. He raced snowmobiles, midgets, motocross, all kinds of stuff, and so it was definitely in our blood. In fact, even my parents met at a snowmobile race on a blind date. So we bought go-karts, and my dad built them and got them all ready to go. I was 10, my sister was 8 years old, and as soon as they were ready to go, we took them out to a big parking lot out back of my dad's building that he worked out of, and he set spray cans up in a big circle, and we were going to drive around in circles, and I'm still driving around in circles today. And so we're going around, and I'm definitely not faster than my sister. My sister's definitely faster than me. And so I go to hit the brake, and all of a sudden, the brake doesn't work. So it goes to, like, falls down to the floor. And so I do what any good 10-year-old does when they drive their first car, a race car of some sort. I just go straight and slow down by hitting a concrete wall head on. So oddly enough, what came from that, though, is that I wasn't scared. You know, I didn't feel scared. I didn't feel afraid of it. We just bought another go-kart, and that's actually when my mom picked up racing for a little bit with the spare go-kart, but I just kept going, and I had a lot of success my first year. I went from not being able to keep up on the parade laps to winning at the end of the season, setting track record, and almost winning the championship in my first year. So I love to see improvement, and that was kind of one of my favorite things about racing, is that it's very instantaneous. You come across that line every 25, 30 seconds, and you know what your lap time is, and I really enjoyed that process of getting better and getting better, and I definitely did. And after 7 years of racing go-karts, I won. Let me go back to my glory days for a second. I won over 100 races for sure. I won like 38 out of 48 one year in and of itself. 10, 15 championships regionally and nationally. Had a lot of success, and one of the things that started to come from that was that the media started following me a little bit, and all of a sudden ABC Sports wants to do a story, and it's for an hour special on a Sunday called Passion to Play, the Making of a Champion. I don't know how they have an eye for these things so early on with kids' lives, but it was myself, it was Tara Lipinski, who's a figure skater, and Anna Kournikova. And so ABC is following me around my high school, filming me for this program, and then to follow that, MTV came to my high school and followed me around, and you know, the media was definitely coming, and it didn't really register to me at that point in time that it had anything to do with being a girl. I was just successful at what I did, and I thought that that was why it was coming. It didn't really hit me. But I knew that I didn't want to be a professional go-kart driver. I wanted to be a race car driver. And so through my time and the people that I've met along the way in racing, I had the opportunity to move to England at 16 and race cars. My poor mother. I'm sure I know she cried a lot. But I did that because I didn't want to be a professional go-kart driver, and the person that told me that this was a great opportunity said, "You're going to learn more in 1 year in England than you're going to learn 5 years here." So I thought, well, that sounds a lot faster. Let's do it. And I get to leave high school. Let's double do it. So I mean, my family was very, very supportive, and they let me go over to England when I was 16. I left high school halfway through my junior year. I did get my GED. Don't think I didn't get that. I actually graduated before all my friends did, actually. So I moved over to England, and I slept on a couch when I first got there. You know, it was hard, but I was excited because I was racing cars, and that's what I wanted to do. And but unfortunately, things didn't go great there. In fact, it kind of sucked. And the weather wears on you, the people wear on you, the racing wears on you, the weather wears on you. So, have you guys traveled to England? Anybody? Yeah, probably some people. God bless you if it was sunny. It wasn't sunny many days when I was there, and maybe it was just in my mind. But it was really hard, and you know, when things are difficult, it really makes you think about, you know, are you good enough? You have confidence issues. I was sad. I got depressed, and it was definitely a tough time for me. And you know, why was it going so bad? Was it because I was new, young? Was it because I was American? Or was it because I was a girl? And that was really hard time. It was the first time I felt like being a girl wasn't serving me very well. And the feedback that I gave to the teams didn't matter, and it was just a really tough time for me. So, but I hung in there, and when I finally got some good equipment at the end of 2000, the year 2000, I raced in a really big event called the Formula Ford Festival. This is an event that's held outside of London at a famous track called Brands Hatch. For any race fan, it's a big famous Formula One track. And so this is a race that has over 100 entries in it from all over Europe. It's the biggest race of the year. And I got good equipment, and I did really well. I finished second, which was the highest for an American for sure. Fourth was the previous best finish, and definitely highest for a girl. So hanging in there served me well. So I went back to England the next year in 2001. And things just kind of fell apart. And I left partway through that year and moved back to the States. And I thought it might have been a little easier to find a ride than it ended up being. I thought that after my success over there that it would be easy, but it wasn't. And my dad and I went to lots of races, lots of open wheel races, because open wheel is what I wanted to do. And we would pound the streets, you know. We would ask teams if they would give me a chance to drive their car, and some would just say no. Others would give astronomical fees that were insulting to have a chance to drive their car. And so after about a year of doing that, which through it all, I always had faith that it was going to work out. I think it's very important to have faith in something. I call it blind faith, because I sure as heck didn't have a lot of reason other than blind faith to believe everything was going to go right. It's difficult to make it to the top of anything, and it's definitely difficult to make it to the top of sports. And there's a lot of really talented people out there, so what sets you apart from them, and what allows you that opportunity that someone else shouldn't get? But I believe that was the determination that I had, and that of going to those races so often, and showing my face, and being the persistent one, and showing that I wanted that job. And so after after all that time of asking and hoping, I finally put a guy named Bobby Rahal on the spot. He's a former Indy 500 winner, and at the time owned an IndyCar team. In fact, he still owns an IndyCar team today after a couple of years taking off. So I put him on the spot, and he said that he would put me in a car. So it wasn't an Indy car, but it was a Formula Atlantic car. And Formula Atlantic is a lot like, for those of you who watch NASCAR, you have the Sprint Cup level and then you have nationwide level. It's like the nationwide level of IndyCar. And so he put a team together for me, and it started happening. And keeping the faith was what did that. And we started having some success. We had some good races. I did 2 years in Atlantic, and in the second year things started really happening. I got a pole position, was racing up front much more, and so we had some success. But one thing that really started clicking at that point in time was the media again. Man, they started covering me a lot, and I'm very fortunate for that because it's allowed my brand to go in the places that it's gone. But I don't know what it was about me, but they wanted to cover me, and the articles written, they wrote a lot of them, and they always wanted to talk about my handshake. I don't know, that was like the first phase of articles. It was always about my handshakes. Nobody had ever met me before, so I hope I don't have to shake everyone's hand after I'm done. My dad always told me to shake like you mean it, so the media started really responding, and that was a big thing for me, and it seemed all of a sudden like being a girl was helping me, where in England I really felt like it was hurting me. And so I kept going. I finished third in the championship my second year in Atlantics, and Bobby said in the middle of that year that he was going to move me up to IndyCars, and which was news to me. I remember I was at Indianapolis Motor Speedway. It was press day on Thursday before the race, and I was standing there watching my teammates because I was not racing an IndyCar level yet. And Bobby said, "I'm going to run Danica in the Indy 500 next year," and I was like, "Did you want to mention that to me first? Do we need talking points on this?" But that was where else. That was a big day. And so in 2005, I moved up to IndyCars, and in my third race alone, which was in Japan, Motegi is the track, which I would later go on to win my first IndyCar race at. It was a great weekend. I qualified on the front row and led laps. Took the lead in the first corner around a guy that I race now, Sam Hornich Jr., which we got into it this weekend, but never mind. Sam and I go way back. I've been Sam's friend since I was like 11 years old. I've known him longer than anybody else at the racetrack, but definitely we have our issues. So anyway, I finished really well. I finished fourth, and the next race was the Indy 500. Have any of you been to the Indy 500? If you haven't gone, you should go. I know I'm not racing an IndyCar anymore, but it's a very special event, and it's if that green flag on the start doesn't give you goosebumps, you need to down your meds, because it's very exciting, and it sounds like a whole fleet of jet engines that are on the ground coming at you. It's very cool. But the Indy 500 was next, and that was the time that I really came on the scene, or at least that's what it felt like at the time. People were starting to notice me a lot, and that came as a result of almost winning the pole position, almost winning the race. I was leading with just a little bit to go, and my late friend now, Dan Weldon, was the one who won it. So as a little side story, he won that race, and then a couple of years later, no, a good few years later, he won the Indy 500 again, and it happened in a very late race fashion. The car that was leading hit the wall out of turn 4, and Dan came across the line, and he was second, and he won. And he said that he always, this is before he died, he said that he needed a trophy and a car for each kid because he has 2 kids. So I think God has bigger plans sometimes, and we just don't realize it. But Dan won that day, but it was a big deal. And I was on the cover of Sports Illustrated the next week, and it was the beginning of what was called Danica Mania, and that was what the press called it. I don't know what it was. I call it busy, but it was definitely a very, very intense time, and it would be a time that from then on out, everything that I did would be scrutinized. It would be judged. It would be inflated, deflated, everything would be analyzed. And I would not only be just known as like Danica, a race car driver, but I would be known as a girl race car driver, which is something that I'm very proud of, and something that I love and have come to love, and realize that what makes you different is in fact what I think are the most special qualities about us. And if we can just not be shy about them and embrace them and find out how we can use them to the best of our abilities, then that's how we can set ourselves apart and be different and be special. And so I embrace all of it and love it all. And I feel very fortunate to be a unique and different story, and to have realized what it takes to be that unique story, and to not be afraid of it and try and hide it. Because there was definitely times growing up that I didn't wear pink or purple or have my nails done or anything like that. I never wanted to draw attention to me as a girl, because let's face it, it was pretty obvious. And I've always had this long hair, so I didn't really need to put it in anybody's face. But being who you are is, I believe, when you get the furthest, and then when you also have the most confidence in yourself. So I've never asked for special treatment as a girl, but I'm also never going to shy away from the fact that I am, and I'm going to use that to the best of my abilities. So as I move forward through my NASCAR career that I've now started, I'm going to be the same girl that I was in go-karts, the same girl that I was in England, and the same girl that I was in IndyCar. I'm going to be the best me that I know how to be.